Hi, welcome to MDT Academy, Mama Drama Trauma Academy. I'm Tammy Taylor, your manifestation muse and coach, teaching empaths how to heal the mother wound. Of course, empaths don't just have the mother wound, empaths have mama drama trauma. It's been a while, and if you listen to the last episode, What Healing Gives, you heard about how the time I have been spending receiving great mothers' downloads has been really abundant, and I'm excited about things that are to come. And today we are talking about really how to receive what healing is giving. You know, we talked about what healing gives. Healing gives peace, okay? Healing gives liberation. And the title, Let Them Be Right, is about that moksha. It is about that emancipation. Of course, the six suits of the Mama Drama Trauma Healing Oracle deck are the acronym ASPIRE. Those six letters are the foundation of what we are here learning to do, which is live in loving detachment from mama, the drama, and the trauma, also known as shame, blame, and guilt, that self-judgment and condemnation that is conditioned in us through this cycle. There is no blaming or shaming of ourselves, our mothers, or anyone, our matrilineal line, people that we have relationships with that replicate this behavior, because it is not the people. It is not even our external situations at all. It's that the external world completely reflects our internal world. So, how we receive what healing gives is, first of all, knowing what it gives. I mean, healing gives peace, but what does that mean? That means that emancipation, the freedom that comes from owning our stuff, is really what the topic is about today. Let them be right. You know, um, healing gives forgiveness of ourselves and others because we own our stuff without judgment or condemnation. We own it with self curiosity. Why do I feel this way? Why am I this way? We wrestle with ourselves first because we know that's where everything comes from. Healing gives reinvention, self reinvention from that internal wrestling. You know, the resurrection is the forgiveness, the release of the shame, blame, and guilt in order to receive our divinity, identity, birthright, to be happy, healthy, and whole. The integrity, is that reinvention based on telling ourselves the truth. Okay, I own my stuff, but I have more good stuff than I have bad. And so let me own that too. Let me tell myself the truth about my gifts, talents, and abilities. Sometimes we don't like our gifts, talents, and abilities, and that's why we don't acknowledge them. For the longest time, it was really hard for me to accept that my true gift and our true gifts are things that not only we benefit from, but others do. That's why it's so easy to identify people in the arts, right? Because arts don't only benefit the artist, but they benefit the collective society in some way. But if you are not a classical artist in the sense of creating something for people to visually enjoy or audibly enjoy, or, it gets a little sticky sometimes. You don't have the arts and crafts thing going on, even speaking or writing. We tend to have a combination of these things. We are divine children. We have many lifetimes of experiences doing things, and there's a collective. And for me, it was the hardest thing to accept and to realize that my true gifting was teaching. I was focusing on the speaking. I was focusing on, you know, um, the big talks and the, this and whatever. And I did training. I did corporate training. I did speaking for a while and that sort of thing. And I always wanted to get to the root and the soul of issues. And that is my true gifting. Not to put it as a side note or something to come back to if I can make it relevant or, this and whatever, but to really dive deep into the soul of things and communicate that. Okay, so this process of healing gives us these things. It gives us the ability to process our truth and allow others to do so in their own timing. There are people in our lives that we are placed in their lives to do this work as a demonstration because they are not going to do it this lifetime. Forget it. They ain't going to do it tomorrow. They ain't going to do it next week. They ain't going to do it next year. They are not going to address that issue that you are sensing as an empath, that you are feeling in your spirit needs to be resolved as an empath. They ain't going to do it. Okay? That's why you are in their lives, to demonstrate how to do it, to teach through example. And this is what Great Mother is leading this teaching to, the deeper source of healing, which is about us as empaths having healed this affliction through the work that we will continue to discuss here at the Academy, because more and more people are wanting to release this. Healing gives us the capacity to process that ache, that pain, that consistent and persistent pain. Does the aching ever go away? Yes, but we have to process the pain. And healing gives us the capacity to accept our truths and allow others to do that in their own timing, in their own way, with the daily practice of living in loving detachment. We no longer demand that others do what we feel in our spirits they need to do. We focus that attention on acknowledging that we picked that up, but then moving that energy inward to do our healing work, instead of keeping it hanging out in the ethers to be used any way the external world is going to use it. And the external world is just reflecting what? Our internal world. So it's just going to go on up and down the radio dial searching for a connection until it finds it. And then we're triggered again on things that we haven't healed internally. And so we want to voluntarily take the initiative to always redirect our energy inward so that our outer world is reflecting what we are receiving from our healing more than not. Healing gives us our birthright to be happy, healthy, and whole. It gives us the readiness, the willingness to experience that through self-inquiry when we don't. Actually looking at life as in those situations where, yeah, I am refocusing, I'm doing my inner work, I'm doing it more than I've ever done it, but stuff is still showing up, and it will always show up, because that is why we are here in this plane. We are in a lifetime of purification. We carry heavy, heavy karma. Okay? And again, there's no judgment or condemnation. There is just the result of action. And so the more and more action we put toward our practice, the more and more benefit we get from it. The reality is we are purifying. And so triggers and things continue to come up to dysregulate. But if we can be mindful that as we bring the energy back to ourselves to do our internal investigation, our internal inquiry, and ask ourselves, why am I not experiencing health, happiness, and wholeness in this moment? What is missing? we can receive the answers that we need to grieve, to let whatever needs to be released go. Because it's all about the accumulation of lifetimes. We're carrying a lot of energy from experiences and interactions. We only interact and see people that we have karma to deal with within our lifetimes. And sometimes it can be the most, you know, um, thoughtless or insignificant situation that has the greatest impact on us, because it's a karmic exchange that we needed with that particular soul to resolve something. That big argument that ended up into us hugging each other because, we realized we were both having a bad day, and, we had no idea, and we were just, that is from lifetimes ago, of some silliness that still was hanging in the ethers of our aura. Healing gives us, last but not least, of course, the guidance and protection from our angels, guides, and ancestors, because we receive it, but the acknowledgement that we have the authority to call on it, to focus on this process of self-care. Okay, so this is what healing gives us and what we were talking about. And so in receiving it, we have to acknowledge that the ultimate goal is to be in that place of peace. When does the aching stop? That peace is the daily practice once the MDT has been released. Once the MDT has been released, and that means that there is truly a daily practice of loving detachment, that the emotions do not course through the body rather, in dysregulating ways anymore. There is a sense of, this is the way things are, not because I'm willing myself to be in this place, not because I'm self-medicating myself to be in this place, but because the circuitry of my highly sensitive body has gone this route so many times, from the bottom of my soles of my feet, up through my legs, to my gut chakra. Oh my gosh, my gut chakra has really been worked. My heart, between there, that circuit is just, it's raw. It's raw. To my throat chakra, my wheel, up to my crown. It's been ran back and forth so many times between the sympathetic and parasympathetic, between the governor vessel, and the compassionate vessel, the front and back, up and down. That's why I'm in this space. It's cleared. And that's why the daily practice is so important, because that's what clears it. That's how we receive what healing is giving. We're always being given healing because we are what? Dearly loved divine children of the great Mother, Father, God, who are never judged, condemned, or left alone. So if we're never left alone, if we're never judged and condemned, and there's nothing but divine love coming at us because we are of divine love, then the only filter there is the one that we have created. And so we're just dismantling it. And yes, that is the blessing of Mama Drama Trauma, is that when you have done that kind of work under these kinds of conditions we live in as an empath in the world today, you have some power. You have an internal power, and you're going to need it. Because again, it's not about exerting it to the external world. Yes, we talk about service, and that is what we are here to do ultimately. But in the meantime, in between time, and even my time serving is always syncopated by the quality and the quantity of inner work that allows it. Okay. Okay. Speaking of coming off a break. And so this, I speak to myself as I speak to you, realizing we receive what healing gives, the more we give that opportunity to heal to ourselves. We break down that filter, and there's more and more health, happiness, and wholeness that we experience, never in the way we expect. It's always better. That's why it's so important for us to dream. And that's not a problem for us, right? As empaths, that's what we were called, daydreamers, right? In the Wizard of Oz, Dorothy, the tornado dream, the twister dream. That's the Pachamama card in the deck. I'm sorry. That is the Adi Shakti card in the deck. Adi Shakti, the Hindu goddess of our energetic field. Those 6 chakras that correlate with ASPIRE acronym acknowledge the root chakra, self-inquiry, the sacral, processing, the gut, of course, we process when we eat our food. Heart chakra, integrity, telling ourselves the truth, resurrection, the throat chakra, that self-reinvention, our higher will, speaking into a new self, forgiving who we thought we were before, and the inner eye of emancipation, living in loving detachment. It's a process. And there's some days our soul, when we do our readings, is really just focusing on, okay, we need to really do this self-inquiry. We're being a little bit too self-judgmental, a little bit too self-condemning. And so there'll be several orange cards in a spread for the sacral. This process also includes, of course, the crown chakra and the soul auric chakra, the 8th chakra, represented by the major arcana. So the major arcana are 12 cards that go from the acknowledged balsamic moon card, or the 8th chakra of the acknowledged card itself, which has the 3rd quarter moon of the root chakra card and that suit, that aspire suit, of the 7th phase of the moon, release, letting go of the MDT, is the law. That's the lawsuit. All 3rd quarter moon cards are the lawsuit. Why? Because the law says we have mama drama trauma because of a soul contract. Great Mother told us that this is a soul contract to evolve in self-love and spiritual independence. This is a lifetime of work required to learn how to do that in a way that facilitates the level of spiritual independence an old soul needs in order to truly live in loving detachment. These are not pretty words or pretty game or trying to sell a deck. That's not what I'm here doing. I don't need to sell no decks. I wasn't thinking about no daggum decks. It just came. And this is the service to share with you what it is. Proven tool to assist us, since it has been downloaded with many, many people and myself. Because the law of the root chakra suit, acknowledged for A and aspire, is the law of destiny. I'm sorry, it's the law of divine order. So there's a divine order that grounds us in this experience, which has to do with us evolving from the material to the astral plane as old souls, and mama drama trauma being a lifetime or multiple lifetimes. In my experience, we have multiple lifetimes of MDT, just like the people we may know who don't want to resolve something that may be obvious to us, causing them great pain, and others, just like we can intuit that needs to happen for them to live a better life and for us. That's usually why we're so sensitive to it, because it makes us uncomfortable. They're not even worried about it. They don't even know they're in pain, but we feeling it, right? Just like they're not going to do it this lifetime. And so quit expecting and demanding people to do things the timing is not there for. That's above our pay grade. That's way above our pay grade. So the same with us. Multiple lifetimes of MDT before we actually honor the soul contract the way our soul needs to truly experience our divinity, identity, and birthright to be happy, healthy, and whole. That's when there's a body release. So what are we talking about? Let them be right. You know, you may not be familiar with this reality television show, but it's recently caught my attention that a member of Ready to Love by the name of Rashid on the Oprah Winfrey Network was on there about to get married to his betrothed that he found on the show. I believe her name, um, it escapes me right now. Starts with an S. My mind's trained for multiple choice from high school in the 80s, and grade school all the way up from the 70s. But it's like Sophie or something like that. Anyway, they came back on the show, and they was the only couple since it's been on for about 6 years or whatever like that who are getting married, and it's big deal, big deal. And so he goes on, and they had a YouTube channel talking about, you know, relationships and reviewing, other reality shows, especially that one that they were on and whatnot. Cute couple, cute, cute. And the other day, he goes on there by himself, and he is really crying and confessing that he's a flawed man and that he's been a fraud and taken off the fake Rolex and the fake diamond necklace and all this, and this is all for likes and whatever. And he told the story of his life. Now, he had daddy drama trauma, and he, with daddy drama trauma, like mama drama trauma, it's about unmet maternal needs, of course, of presence, provision of care and protection. And daddy drama trauma is the same thing. It's the unmet paternal needs for paternal presence, which is a little different. It's not so much the presence in terms of the embrace, the bodily presence, although that is extremely important. It's more the presence of, while in that physical presence, the word is being spoken, the law is being laid down. That's more of the paternal presence. That's why you can have people who actually didn't have their father home very much, but if they spoke to him frequently enough, like in divorce or whatever like that, on the weekends, or even fathers in prison, you will still have people that have really close relationships with their fathers. And that is because for daddy drama trauma, that's the presence. It's the spoken word, the law. Okay, that's great father energy. Great mother energy is the comforter, the Holy Spirit. So great father energy is the law, laying that law, teaching the child. You've heard phrases like, reading the books my father read. This is the way daddy said do it. Set up my finances, set up my, relationship, set up my, may not go along with it, but that is the grounding and the presence of the father. That's the care provision of the father. Care provision of the father is material. It is money. It is finances. Okay. And so usually in those relationships I mentioned, that would be the only qualm, that there were not finances. But if you had a mother working like crazy, you might not even notice that about your father either until you get older and realize, hey, as an adult, that was definitely lacking, that material care provision from the father. The home is really important. It's different when you live in a home with your father in terms of the feeling of being cared for and the protection, obviously. So, anyway, he's explaining how this affected him and the low esteem that he received because, having said all of that about, his parents breaking up and everything, his father adored him and he had that relationship with his father. But despite all of that, when he went to school, as with the majority of little black boys, the conspiracy to destroy black boys, might want to read that, from the 70s. He was told he was a slow learner. And we know as black educators that little black boys, they need activity as they learn. Um, and sitting down is stressful to them. They need activity. In the DNA, the root learning, and in my travels in Africa in the 80s as a young woman, at that particular time, whether it's a Muslim community or Bantu community or whatever, under the tree, the little boys, separate from girls, first and foremost, and they were repeating what the teacher said, verbatim, or they were writing and they were repeating. It was the voice and the rhythm, and so that's it in your DNA. And then you take into the Western world and you are sitting in a hard chair to look at somebody all day inside a building. Doesn't work well. So anyway, like a typical situation, he overcompensates. So I'm saying all of this to say that sometimes, even with all of our challenges, when others make an observation, even in that situation at school with him, and the teachers were making an observation that he was a slow learner, sometimes when people tell us that we're too sensitive, or sometimes when people tell us that, we are too detached, or sometimes, you know, we need to let them be right. Not in a detached, condescending way, but in a lovingly detached way that takes into consideration that they might be right. Bringing the energy back into ourselves instead of expressing rage, internalizing what about that statement or perception is making us sad, is making us upset, the self-inquiry. Sometimes we need to let people be right, because as terrible as that backstory is for little black boys and the conspiracy to destroy black boys as it has been interpreted and utilized and demonstrated scientifically to be the road to the prison system, sometimes we need to say, yes, my son does have a challenge learning. That way, we'll find ourselves to the book, The Conspiracy to Destroy Little Black Boys, and we find community activities to compensate for that lack of tactical learning that little black boys need. They need to touch, they need to feel, they need to be in a group, maybe some drumming, maybe some karate, maybe something somewhere. And if I can't afford it, well, maybe if they're telling all of our little black boys that, maybe we need a community center. And see, we start to not just talk about what needs to happen, but actually do it based on doing our inner work and it being true for us. The same way with empaths with the mother wound. We need to let them be right. Yeah, I am too sensitive. If you are to compare me to someone who doesn't feel the frequency in the room at all. And so to you, I need to let you be right and hear you that that's too much information. You can't take in all that information. You can't take in all that sensory frequency. Sometimes we need to let people be right so that we can see that, oh, okay. It's not that I'm too much for them personally and woe is me. It's more, okay, in a lovingly detached way, I'm taking in way more information than other people are taking in this room. Let me pull it back if I want to stay in this room. Let me take it on down, a few notches and maybe a whole lot of notches just so that I can interact on a very surface level. They playing on the surface. They playing volleyball on the surface. They not down here seeing life that we haven't seen or recognized on the planet for the last 100 years. you know, they're not, and we're trying to have a conversation and we wonder why there's miscommunication. You see what I'm saying? Let them be right so that you can go on the surface and play volleyball, and that's all it is. Yeah, we'll get back down to there. We'll get back down with the beautiful sea creatures and the lights that are flickering down there and that sort of thing, and be in our calm space. But if we really want to interact with people, sometimes we need to let them be right and put that filter back up voluntarily so that it doesn't become a karmic situation where we have caused harm to others and ourselves. Let them be right. Allow yourself to receive the healing that's available in those moments. By depersonalizing the observation of others in that moment who are not nearly as sensitive as you are. What healing gives is our ability to own our stuff and let others own theirs at their own pace. They don't even know they need to own theirs. They're so innocent many times, just as innocent as we are. So forgiveness no longer becomes a holier than thou exercise or attempt. Forgiveness actually becomes forgiving, foregoing the need to be understood, foregoing the need to be appreciated, foregoing the need for others to know what we're talking about all the time, and just giving what we have to give in that moment. We can turn it up and we can turn it down. This is what we want to really take a look at when we are receiving what love is giving. We want to own that perhaps I'm not fully recognizing I'm an empath. And I'm on the fence about that. Okay. So this is all for you are definitely an empath with the mother wound. So we're clear about the mother wound. That's not so unusual. Most people have it. Okay. But if you're still on the fence about being an empath, because this is all for empaths, got a couple of questions for you to help you kind of self-assess. When someone walks in the room, does your skin curl? Does your skin kind of lift up a little bit? Your stomach quiver? Or are you immediately compelled by or repelled from them? Do you have this like energetic ping pong thing going on when someone walks in the room throughout your body? Okay, and we talked about the energy coursing through our bodies, and we don't even consider it because that's all we know. That doesn't happen to other people. They don't know if you were to articulate what that feeling is. First of all, recognize it. Okay, that's what we're doing now. We're recognizing that when someone walks in the room, you kind of feel your body lift and the antenna on the skin kind of coming up, kind of curling up, those hairs curling up straight. Does your stomach kind of quiver? Like a radio antenna's been turned on? Or are you immediately compelled by or repelled from them? And it happens in a matter of seconds. Microseconds, in fact. You an empath. Does that happen to all human beings? Yes, on a very instinctual level, but not in the way it happens with us. Because this is the thing. Though we may have strong biases and personal opinions, notwithstanding, all of this occurs automatically, absent our prejudices or premeditations. Okay? So, and absent our premonitions as well. Okay? Many of us are psychics. All psychics are empaths, not empaths are psychics. Okay? So, we'll have premonitions about things. Some of us, many of us, before the person even walks in the room, before they even get into the building, we'll have a premonition. Okay? If we need to, if it's information that is related again to our soul. Remember, we have relations and interactions, exchanges with people that we have karma with. Someone we're interacting with that just walks into the building, we may have had a premonition that something was going to happen, someone was going to come in, and we may have even seen them if we're clairvoyant in a dream or just seconds before they walk in. And we're like, okay, there they are. You are an empath. That doesn't happen to everybody. Okay? Everybody doesn't do that. All right? Okay. Somebody tell you that you're an empath. All right. Um, all this stuff is happening. This is the rub that lets you know. Even though everybody has their own opinions, right? Just because we're empaths doesn't mean we believe the same way. There's some core beliefs that all old souls have. Yes. And that one is in divinity identity. Great Mother gave us that off the rip with the first Oracle deck. We all believe, whether we practice it or not, we all believe in divinity identity. We all believe that we and everybody else are dearly loved divine children of the great Mother, Father, God, who are never judged, condemned, or left alone. We all believe that. That's a core belief. But in terms of our incarnation this lifetime and the attitudes, behaviors, beliefs, and stuff, just unique. Again, some of us actually practice divinity identity. And some of us don't. Some of us are healthy empaths. We don't have to deal with any of this stuff. We've already had the MDT soul contract, and so we're released. We are living liberated. Very much a servant in society. We see people when we are unhealthy empaths, blocked with all this baggage and in bondage from mama drama trauma, and we envy them. Because yes, we have this core belief. And yes, we do feel and we see many things. And so we are great resources for the organizations that we are a part of, even if it's just our family. Great resources that people rely on. And we know that, and we want to give more. Oh, do we want to give more? But we have to do the healing work to lift up all of I'm seeing in my mind's eye just sludge. Have you ever bought an old house, invest in an old house to get yourself going with your credit and stuff like that, and go in there to clean that mess up, to renovate, and it's just I don't care how well kept the house was. It's just nature takes over and things happen. Stuff breaks down, and the water, and then the mold, and then the this, and then that, and then it's just sludge over here because of dirt at the foundation. You got to get that out before you can do this, and that's what we have to do. No judgment or condemnation. Our job is to be self-curious enough to do it with an attitude of gratitude that we are dearly loved divine children, that we do have the birthright to be happy, healthy, and whole, even as we do it. We have our own opinions and things like that, but when we get these downloads, when we intuit these things, when we have this clairvoyance, this clairsentience, this claircognizance about things, this clairaudience, we hear things, it's independent of those prejudices. And so we're looking at this information like we know it didn't come from us. Because if it did, it would be slanted the way we think about stuff. But it's not. But it's not. In the example of sensing that someone is going to walk into the room, we were just sitting there. Wasn't thinking about nobody, wasn't trying to be in nobody's business, wasn't hoping nobody was coming, none of that. Had nothing to do with our opinions, our prejudices, our desires, our whatever. It just happened. We saw it in our mind's eye, or we heard the voice make a statement, and the person walks in, and we see them walk up to the food table and say, "What is that you have right there? That looks really good." And we heard that very same question about 15 minutes ago through our clairaudience. We heard someone say, "What is that you have right here? It looks good. I want to try it." Sign and symbol to pay attention to that person. We usually don't even walk up to the person. Again, it depends on our personality. Depends on where you are in life. You a single woman, the person look good, like good looking man, whatever, you might just go ahead and roll up and say, "Hey, the Lord's speaking to me," you know. Or you might just, whatever the situation, we're all different. Situations are different. They play out differently. But I'm here to let you know that you are an empath if these things are happening. And if as a result of these things happening, you routinely question them and struggle to trust your intuition, though it proves its validity time and time again, you are an empath. This happens to you all the time. That doesn't happen to other people. And I used to think that everybody was like that too. I mean, until I was in my 40s. I mean, it started to become clear to me that there was something different in my teens. But because of the MDT and the conditioning of who do I think I am, and, you know, you didn't really see that, the gaslighting, you really didn't hear that, unless it was something beneficial to others, that knocked me off of that horse for 20 years. And I got back on it, okay, as the daily practice will help us to do. And at that time, it wasn't a daily practice. It was just kind of a, you know, when I hit my bottom practice. We hit our bottoms, once every several years, depending on how intense of a lifestyle we have to self-medicate. And then get up and go to AA. And how often we do that before we develop our spiritual independence through the practice of self-love when we need help going to get it. Okay? And letting that pride go enough where we can let them be right. You got a problem, girl. If you're making decisions on a consistent basis that are not making you happy, healthy, and whole. And this is not so much the outside world telling me that, although that's another blessing of Mama Drama Trauma. Our mothers will tell us things, but because they sound and feel so painful, we can't hear it. I was told I was crazy because I would go out into the world and seek things and look for help and look for wisdom and look for knowledge. I just now let them be right. Okay, I'm crazy. But I know why I'm crazy. Because turning that energy back around on me that makes me feel some kind of way about being called crazy, I realize I guess it is crazy to be free. I can see that from their perspective, from how they see the world. Okay? And knowing from my own inner work, that's because that's their inner world of bondage. I know. Just like me. I know the struggle with that. Of course, with that baggage, with those blockages to processing divinity, or even knowing what it is. Yeah, it's going to be crazy to you how I'm living. It's going to be crazy good. And so, that is what healing gives. And how to receive the healing is by letting them be right. With loving detachment. So I hope that has been helpful to you and given you a little bit more of an idea of how the deck works and connects with that divinity. Of course, the major arcana of the acknowledged self-inquiry, process, and integrity, resurrection, and emancipation have the 8 cycles of the moon in each suit, 8 cards in each suit, with the A, as we talked about, being the acknowledged card, the balsamic moon, has the law card. That each of these cards in the lawsuit, there are 6 of them for each suit, acronym, acknowledge, self-inquiry, etc. For the root chakra, it is the law of divine order. And this is the divine order. That's third quarter moon energy, releasing the energy of that particular lunar cycle. And when we release mama drama trauma and the shame, blame, and guilt around it, we release the need to hide from ourselves. You know, in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, they hid when they ate the forbidden fruit. The forbidden fruit is the tree of knowledge. It comes from the tree of knowledge. And when we eat of the tree of knowledge and we are ashamed, it's only because we don't understand the knowledge. And that is why we have to respect the timing, the divine order. We weren't ready to hear. We weren't able to receive. We weren't willing to acknowledge mama drama trauma until we were ready, able, and willing. And this divine timing, this divine order is what gives us our uniqueness. We sit with things until we process things fully, but we can't even begin to process until we have taken things in. And so the root is taking that seed from the balsamic moon, that seed, energetic seed. The download is the energetic seed, the balsamic moon of acknowledgement. The new moon card in that suit is Newt. You know, the Egyptian card Newt. You know, it's about just that period of silence. You know, it's has to do with that mystery. It has to do with let me pull out the Newt card. Being unseen, unheard is what that root chakra new moon card is. Unseen, unheard. Nothing's really happening. It's just the vibe of that download. And the vibe of root chakra, new moon energy, no light out at night, just darkness, pure darkness, the new moon. From the vibe of acknowledgement, that's really how we feel. We feel dark and alone and alienated and isolated just to admit that. The aching, the aching. There's an aching about that. And when we're able to let ourselves go through our own timing, realizing that we can manage the knob of emotional regulation, of how we experience things, by strengthening our daily practice, we can plant the seed of the card after that. The root chakra crescent moon card is birth mother. That's the birth mother card. It's the soulmate card. We can plant the seed of acknowledging our soulmates who greet us along the pathway of life. We can welcome them. We don't have to go out and look for them, you know, not as old souls, just like the old people. People come to them. We don't have to. We can. But there's a timing, right? We're all unique in circumstances, and we can plant those seeds of relationships. Birth, mother, root chakra, crescent moon card is always asking us when that shows up in a reading, how is this relationship replicating MDT? In what way is what you're asking about in this reading a sign that MDT is showing up? A sign of shame, blame, and guilt. Be careful, because how you respond is going to be what you plant. That's crescent moon energy when that birth mother card shows up. It's like a warning. It's a warning card of what are you planting. Kind of be careful what you pray for. And a lot of us, for a long time, we pray that our relationship is different with our mothers. And it never happens. It ebbs and flows. But the through line is the through line. And that just be what it is. Some of us are fortunate in that through line evolves. It gets better over time. But it's never quite what we want. Never quite the quality we desire. And it always requires a tremendous amount of work. That heavy lifting, that we are here to do, the karma that we have. And wrapping up here with the acknowledged suit. I don't know how I got into the acknowledged suit. I think it was just the topic, let them be right. It is like the acknowledged suit. It's we have to just acknowledge what's going on with ourselves and how we are interacting with the world based on our perception of ourselves. That's why we are wrapping this up with acknowledge. First quarter moon card comes after that, Kali, and Kali is about fear. That's the Hindu goddess of fear. First quarter moon energy is facing the challenge of making a decision. When that card shows up, it's time to decide. Root chakra decision is, what are you going to decide? How are you, what seed did you plant from the birth mother crescent moon? You're going to have to go ahead and move on with that and act accordingly. This is the cycle. This is the energetic cycle Great Mother gave us to healing. Okay, what is it that you're going to be moving on with? And usually we're scared. That's face the fear card. First quarter moon, root chakra, first quarter moon, Kali. We have to face the fear of what we have decided to do. And nobody can have higher, elated goals and aspirations, aspire, once again, than empaths. We're extremely idealistic, often to the point of living very depressing, disappointing lives because it never measures up. Okay, the mother and relationship getting better, but never what we want. Very idealistic because we are lopsided energetically between the physical and astral realms. The astral realm is the realm of ideation. It is not the causal plane. It is not where the energetic seed of creation is planted. But it is the ideation, is where that seed becomes something. It's after the blueprint has been established. It's like, okay, so what kind of wallpaper we gonna put up? What color of carpet's going to be, and that's the causal plane. And so we're very idealistic, and so it's the part about getting our hands dirty that makes us fearful, because we know anything can happen when we ground ourselves in the material plane. And that's very disconcerting for us because we have such heavy karma. We know things can go wrong. Okay? It is much nicer in the astral, dreaming and daydreaming and self-medicating and whatnot. I feel better. It's much, I feel lighter. I feel like I should be, you know? But we are in the physical plane. It's a lot. I know. This is the cognitive dissonance. Our core belief is in divinity identity, but yet we have to acknowledge we are rooted in the physical plane. This is how we process that, face the fear. After the first quarter moon card, of course, we have the waxing gibbous moon card, Sekhmet, comes after that. The rage and indignation that our birthright to be happy, healthy, and whole is not being grounded in the material. We are constantly emotionally dysregulated because of all of this. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Constantly. Acknowledge. Sekhmet shows up and says, hey, you mad about this right here you asking about. Acknowledge. Waxing gibbous is all about refining, reassessing. It's kind of retrograde energy. It's kind of reevaluating the situation. Yes, you have righteous indignation about this situation because you do have a birthright to be happy, healthy, and whole. Bring it back. Rage is suppressed anger. Okay, that's why when the card shows up, 9.9 times out of 10, people are like, I'm not mad. Yes, you are. We can feel everything except our own rage because it is grounded and we're not. As our daily practice grows, when the card shows up, we laugh when we see it because we know we are. And we kind of look for it to show up in the spread. It's like, okay, I bet they're going to show up because waxing gibbous, refining. What are we angry about? Something's making us unhappy. Something is making us feel unhealthy. We don't feel whole. We feel judged, condemned, left alone, all the above. That's the assessment that I have, the raw score assessment. If anybody wants to do that, I can shoot that over to you. It just takes you through, like if you have a situation that's triggering you like that, and you're like, I just really feel unprotected. I feel all alone. I feel like, I've just really been treated poorly. And it's just, I don't care. I feel that way and I'm fuming right now. Nothing's going to change that right now. And probably for a little while, okay? When that kind of situation comes up, or even if anything comes up that makes you feel, because we are divine children, we have a birthright. This is the work. Get on there and answer the 8 questions that correlate with each phrase in our divinity identity mantra. And it will zero in on which of those phrases we're dysregulated with, that we have a dissonant energy with. Okay, so I am is 1, dearly loved is 2, child 3, so on and so forth, of the great mother, father, God. And it might come back that what you are dissonant with is the phrase dearly loved. And that will allow us to look at, okay, this isolation, this being rejected is really messing with my feeling of being dearly loved. And then I go into my self inquiry. That is the bridge to the self inquiry. Because a lot of times things happen and it's like, okay, bring the energy back, bring the energy back. How do I do that? Well, that's what the raw score is for. And the raw score will let you know which of those phrases, and I'm not feeling dearly loved. Okay, so the self inquiry becomes, where do I need to feel dearly loved right now? What will make me feel dearly loved right now? And sometimes for me, it's something as simple as taking a bath, a long bath with all of my favorite essential oils and salts and some music, and sometimes it's just putting a little bit of um fruit flavoring or fruit ice cubes into my water. It's something like a little special for me. Just a little special for me. I might wash my car. I might go to a matinee. I might, you know, and it does the trick. It does the trick. Don't have to go out and buy a whole bunch of stuff. It can just be, okay, I'm going to take the afternoon off and I'm going to clean my room so that when I do take my bath, I come into fresh linens and this and whatever, whatever, and just make it a whole plan. I'll do that this afternoon, clean my room, and then tomorrow I'll get my stuff together for my bath and just make it a whole. And before you know it, you are in resonance with the dearly love like you haven't been in a long time. Okay. So that is what we're talking about. After we deal with the segment and the grounding is the full moon card of icy self-mothering. And I think we just talked about that. Full moon, of course, is the full illumination of the cycle. And the full illumination of acknowledgement is acknowledging that need to self-mother through Ices. And the final card of that cycle is the waning gibbous moon card of Pachamama, ground tree fairies. What do we do after we take that bath? If we want to really do up the self-loving and the self-mothering, go ahead and ground yourself, in some way with a good healthy meal or walking outside with your feet in the dirt, just kind of, yeah, you just took a bath, but you might just want to go out there with those clean feet, with those sensitive nerves on that ground and just feel the heartbeat of Earth Mother. You can come in and wash off your feet and then put on your oil on your feet and, just Pachamama, ground trees, fairies. Waning gibbous energy is about thanksgiving, sharing. And so it's connecting with your nutrition, connecting with the earth. It might be leaving a bad situation behind. It's Pachamama. It's Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz when she leaves the farmhouse, It's leaving a bad situation behind when they're trying to take Toto, who symbolizes her intuition. And that's what we do. We develop our intuition. We develop our core belief. We do that internal work while letting them be right. Okay, I hope that's been helpful and that you always remember that Great Mother loves you. And I do too.